Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of Pardon Our Picks, where perfection is a work in progress. I'm your host, Sam. Our co-host, Derrick, is off this week. He has fatherly duties. Of course, though, the return of football Jesus, he has risen. How are you this evening?
It may have taken me 7 days to rise this time instead of the normal three, but you know what? I'm here, ready to talk about week 12.
All right. And of course, we have the QB coach, Jessica, always out there drawing up plays. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I'm pretty happy that my super underdog pick of Miami through this week. So I feel like that got me some kudos. People I was talking to about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I liked that pick. It was a bold pick, but it paid out for you. Speaking of paid out for you, we have our sponsors for the evening, Aardvark Concepts Incorporated. Of course, more than just a sign shop. Check them out in Westminster for all of your decal and sign needs. And of course, in Too Deep of Maryland, check out their next show. You're gonna have to look them up on Facebook for their announcement for when their next show is. So, pretty exciting week last week. I think we all did pretty decent, even with a few a few crazy games. I still can't believe that the Jets absolutely face flopped as bad as they did. Quite frankly, it's not as surprising because I picked them to win. But their record, of course, at this point in the season is 3-7. Pretty right for that team. Maybe they should be more like 2-8. Who knows? But I look through these teams, and some of these teams, their record doesn't match their performance on the field recently. And I got to ask, is there a particular team you think whose performance isn't reflected in their record?
I'm going obvious choice with the Kansas City Chiefs. Not to be a hater. I think everything, all the shows that I'm watching, the stations I'm listening to, it seems to be pretty honest that though the Chiefs are always in the conversation and everybody expects them to go to the playoffs and potentially a Super Bowl, you can't rule them out. The fact that they're undefeated is pretty surprising considering how they've been playing. And I know that they've had some injuries, but they've traded for people to fill those spots pretty well. But the way their offense has been playing, they've been struggling. And there's been a lot of only been their defense that really kept them in the game. And then in cases that, like in the beginning of the season, especially, a lot of comments about the refs potentially giving the games to them. There's been a number of games that I feel like they should have lost, that they either won in the finals or won somewhat unfairly. And I definitely think they should have had at least 3 losses by now.
So I'll take the opposite end of the spectrum here. The Cincinnati Bengals, I mean, they have been playing really good football, and Joe Burrow's putting up MVP-like numbers, but their record has them essentially on the brink of elimination of playoff contention, just the way how the rest of the AFC is kind of laid out. And when you look at their future and what they have to do in the offseason, I mean, they have to sign Jamar Chase. I mean, if you let him walk, you may as well tear the entire franchise down. So when you look at this team, they have playmakers on both sides of the ball. They could use a running back or really a number one, someone maybe they pick up in the draft. But there's too much talent on that team and on that sideline. Really, I think the coaching staff there is doing a phenomenal job, except for, a few bad choices. But they have way too much talent to be 4-6. So we'll see what they look like down the stretch. But I don't know.
Pretty good choices. If I had to go with one, I'd say the Texans. Actually, I look at this team, and at the beginning of the season, they had a lot of potential. The problem is they didn't play up to their potential to start the season, and they've been injured the past couple of weeks, and yet they are 6-4. They're 3-0 in their own division, which gives them a bit of a boost. However, the teams that they've beaten outside of their division, the Bears, who are starting to come back down to earth a little bit, The Bills, when they had their full contingent and the Bills weren't playing up to their potential, and the Patriots, the only 3 teams that they beat outside of their own division. However, they've lost to some inexplicable teams. The Jets 2 weeks ago. They lost to the Packers without Jordan Love. And quite frankly, I think the only reason that they're at first in their own division is because the rest of their division isn't very good this year. 6-4 is probably higher than they would be in any other division right now if they played division games in, say, the AFC North. I think they would be more 4-6 back where the Bengals are, maybe even 3-7. But with some of their players getting healthy, Nico Collins coming back, I think things could turn around for him. Perhaps Stroud can get himself off the snide and get that team over the top. Almost last week against the Lions. They were that close. They're close. But you got to play 2 halves of football. Speaking of 2 halves, let's take a look at our standings after the first half of the season is over. And let's take a look. Jessica in the lead. 3-game lead right now, so she's pulling away just a little bit.
Doesn't get old every week.
Hubris will be your downfall. As it was mine.
Good old Kid Icarus flying too close to the sun. The wings shall melt, and you shall plummet back to earth.
So
anyway, we're running out.
Yeah, we got 8 weeks left. So, speaking of plummeting back to earth, let's get to our games of the week. Football Jesus, give us what you got this week.
Well, we kind of hit on it a little bit with teams whose records aren't really indicative of their talent. And I went with a Thursday night football game this week. The Washington Commanders going into Philly to play the Eagles. And both of these teams kind of suffer from the same problem. They beat the teams they're supposed to beat handily. And then when they play a team of equal or higher skill, they, kind of lose it. We saw it with Philly early on in the season when they were, supposed to go in and be world beaters. And then they just kind of, PG show here, left skid marks on the field against the Buccaneers. And then the Commanders, with all of their talent and all of, the hurrah around their offense, they should have been able to handily beat the Steelers. But again, another team that is playing above their talent level, I think, is the Steelers. But this game is for the division. I said, I think week 3 that I think, sorry, my dog is being extremely needy tonight. I said early on in the weeks in the season that the Commanders, I think, will win this division. I think this game is going to go a long way in deciding that. Yeah. Do you want to be on camera or something? Yeah, that's what I thought. So I have the Commanders in this game. I think this is going to be a really close game. I think this is going to be one of those career stars for Jaden Daniels to really show that he is the rookie of the year. Bo Nix is putting up pretty good numbers. But I have him winning this game on the strength of a run game, hopefully with Brian Robinson coming back. But I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be decided by a field goal, but I have the Commanders.
Definitely good points. I actually am taking the Eagles. This is such a good rally nowadays. This hasn't always been, but the Eagles are hitting their, and the Commanders look great. So the biggest matchup I'm gonna really enjoy watching is, the Commanders have only been allowing about 100 yards rushing. So I want to say that's per game, but possibly only on their road games. But they play on the road as well. This is a Thursday night game, and on the other side of the have Saquon trying to continue what he's been doing lately. So I don't know if he's going to be hurdling this week or not, but I think that's going to be fun to watch, them trying to get the run game going against a run defense. So I'm going to go with the Eagles, but I do think it's going to be a close game.
And there's the pup. I look at this game, and both of these teams played pretty good last week, except, of course, the Commanders lost to the Steelers. On some controversial, on a controversial call by the refs. I think he got the first down. They'll never overturn themselves because they don't want to be wrong. I think it's a problem in this league right now. Quite frankly, I look at this. The Eagles, for some reason, their top receiver, he's got this roller coaster going on where he has a great week and he has a crap week. Great week, crap week. Unfortunately for me, I have him on my team in fantasy. So this last week, he actually didn't get that many yards, didn't get that many points. I think he got 0 touchdowns. And I feel like this is going to be a shootout. This is going to be a high-scoring game. I think they're both going to score in the mid to high 30s, just because their defenses aren't that great. And
their rush defense is good.
You did, but I think they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. It's not going to be much rushing as much as throwing. Yeah. And I feel like Washington ekes out a win with a last-second field goal. Maybe their kicker comes back this week. I know Siebert was out last week, so see how it goes. I got the Commanders in a thrilling Thursday night. Now, let's get into the QB coaches game of the week. What have we drawn up this week?
So I've got a classic rivalry between the Baltimore Ravens and the Steelers in Pittsburgh. This is generally just a fun game to watch. Really very hard hitting, extreme defense. However, this year I'm a little bit about the Ravens defense right now is really can't be trusted, but luckily the Steelers offense is not their strong point. So there's a little bit of a balance. Hopefully will give the Ravens the advantage. The Steelers, they're fighting for the top. Steelers, I believe, are tied with the Ravens, but they haven't won any divisional games. They haven't played divisional games. So last week we saw the Steelers have a bit of a struggle against the Commanders, which the Ravens did not. And up to this point, the haven't had that difficult of a schedule. But the Ravens have already played the Buffalo Bills and the Chiefs and are still doing pretty well. I would say going into this is going to be a great game. There's no lack of respect between these teams. They both know they both bring it when it comes time to play each other. There were some great comments from Mike this week about Lamar Jackson. I love that. But I think the Ravens offense has to be on all cylinders and fully focused so that they do not get any turnovers with this powerhouse of a defense. And they really cannot afford, the defense needs to just snap it together. So a close game. I think the Ravens offense will hopefully, maintain the momentum they've had. And I think they're going to win relatively low game 23-20.
Yeah, I echo your sentiments exactly. This game scares me as a Ravens fan because the last 5 times the Ravens have played the Steelers, there's been some voodoo at work. I mean, the last time they played, the Ravens receivers wore butter for gloves, and then Lamar was out the 2 previous ones, and Tyler Huntley was playing, and we both know he is not really a serviceable backup. And then we had the COVID years and all this stuff where we were, our quarterbacks were tearing ACLs, and we had Trace McSorley and Sam Cook, all this stuff. But the thing that I'm excited about this week is I think this is going to be the week where we finally see Keaton Mitchell really get more snaps for the Ravens. And I think that's really going to be a difference maker, is having that real change of pace back who has the speed. Justice Hill has been phenomenal, and he has earned every dollar that he has signed. But I think Keaton Mitchell is just going to be that extra step up that the Ravens are going to need in that change of pace from Derrick Henry to another back. When I look at the Steelers offense, I think this is going to be a high-scoring game because, as Jess alluded to, the Ravens can't stop anybody when they throw the ball. And George Pickens is the second coming of Odell Beckham Jr., making insane catches in coverage. and all of that. So I think it's going to be how much time can the Ravens eat up on the clock versus how much time the Steelers don't use when they play offense. So I have this being a high-scoring game, somewhere in the low 30s for both teams, but I have the Ravens winning this one just because of the strength of their run game.
I don't agree, though, that they should be – let them feed Derrick Henry. Let them feed him.
No, you just want that for
Let
fantasy.
that peach come out again.
No, you just want that for fantasy.
No, I mean, every time you are in a close game, everybody's like, they didn't give Derrick Henry the ball enough. And then they showed the stats for when Derrick Henry the ball more than, 20 times in a game or something. The percentage of lead is just greatly increased versus when they don't, and it's a struggle.
You can give him the ball 20 times, but eventually when he needs to take a break because, he may be 90% machine, but he is 10% human. Mm-hmm. And I would like to see them, do little dump offs to Keaton Mitchell, who was running, 24
That's because
miles
you play
an hour
against Derrick Henry this week.
No, I want Derrick Henry to put up 30, so you have no complaints when I beat you this week.
Listen, the stat sheets can lie to you. It's not necessarily that every time that the Ravens run the ball a lot with Derrick Henry, say that they win because of that. It could also be that they use him a lot when they're up to run the ball, to run out clock. So if they're already winning, they're running the ball. So it's not a correlation so much as they're using him to win the game as much as they are using him to run out the game.
I get that, but Ravens integrate their run game pretty early on, and they tend to do a lot of run plays from the games. They're not a pass-heavy team in the beginning of the game.
I agree. He's a big part of their offense. I really do. And I look at this game, and I think he is the key. Last week, he got like 58 yards rushing, and that game was close towards the end. There was a lot of scoring in that game last week against the Bengals.
Did you see that peach, though?
What?
Did you see his hiney?
No, I'm going to put this out there. I don't really look at the dude's butts so much.
Wow.
But I think there is a rumor out there that as he was being tackled at some point, somebody pulled down his pants.
It was on the TV. I'll send you a picture.
Go ahead and send me a picture of Derrick Henry's booty.
It's a huge butt.
I'm sure it is. The man has massive legs. But I look at this game, and quite frankly, you guys are right in that the Steelers have not played a divisional game yet. This is the first one. And for the rest of the season, they have exactly 2 games outside the division. 2. So I think these are the most important games for them. They have basically the Baltimore Ravens, Cincinnati Bengals are going to be huge obstacles for them to get over. The Ravens have played, I think, 2 or 3 divisional games by now. This will be their 4th. And I look at this. They've played 3, or is this their 3rd?
This is their 3rd. Played the Browns. This will be their 4th because we played the Bengals twice. So
yes, thank you. You remind me of my wife, who does that to me all the time. No.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
Anyway, that all being said, I think Derrick Henry is going to bounce back with a much bigger rushing game, get himself back on track to get close to the rushing record at the end of the season. Close. He's not going to get it. He's going to get close. And I got the Ravens winning this one by a score of 20-17, actually.
So another lower scoring close game.
These are going to be lower scoring. These teams tend to be lower scoring simply because of their defenses. Now, let's get into our last game of the week. The GM has traded in for me to call this game. It is the Atlanta Falcons against the Denver Broncos. And I know what you're thinking. Oh my God, why didn't you pick the Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills? I think this game is going to be absolutely exciting. Both of these teams last week had super close calls. They both lost by less than 3 points. The Broncos, a blocked field goal away from beating the Chiefs. And the Falcons missed field goals away from beating, what was it, Carolina?
The Saints.
The Saints, that's right. A team that they really should have beaten. But 3 missed field goals is hard to get over. Quite frankly, Bijan Robinson has been picking it up. And Drake London has had an amazing game last week. And they just couldn't get it over the hump. And the Broncos, their defense has been incredible. They have held teams to 25 points and under pretty much every week, including the high-powered Chiefs who scored 22 points last week. The Bo Nix experiment is going well. That guy is he's actually doing pretty good for a team that, nobody really expected to do much with. Okay. She has sent me a picture of his butt.
Two pictures.
2 pictures. Oh, I'm sorry. 2 pictures. One is zoomed in. So I can get a good look at his crack. Anyway, I look at this game. I see strength versus strength offense of the Falcons against the defense of the Broncos, and I think that is where they crack. I have the Broncos winning this game in a 25-22 victory.
Ooh. Brady? Brady, you there?
He's frozen. Go ahead, Jess.
I think that's so. I when you were talking about the missed field goal or the block, sorry. I wonder if that was the only thing that gave that game away or not. If maybe there was some stuff before that, because I can't remember off the top of my head. But so I feel like you're right with the whole Bo Nix thing. I think this season Sean Payton was very clear he wanted to pick somebody for the team that would fit into his style of offense. And I think that's why he singled out Bo Nix. But the Falcons have, their players are pretty healthy. I would be surprised. They had a down week last week. Surprised if I do think there will be some turnovers, unfortunately. I'd be surprised if the Broncos won this one. Is it in Denver?
It's in Denver.
Yes. Okay.
I always try to put
I think it'll be
the whole team on the right.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you always said. Brady told me that last time. I forgot. Yeah, no, I'm going to take the Falcons here. They're okay on the road, I think. It's kind of a toss-up game. But this has been looking good. Bijan Robinson is going to get to go against the Broncos. But that Broncos defense is 7th against the run. So it's going to be a tough game. It's going to be fun. I'm going to say 20 Falcons, 17 Broncos.
Sorry about that technical difficulty. Jess just sent us the aforementioned Derrick Henry booty pictures, and my phone vibrated enough to hit the power button on my laptop.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it was like the perfect scenario of everything. So I'll just keep it short and sweet because I don't know who said what. Kirk Cousins did not play well last week. He is either really good or really bad. But we saw the Broncos defense was kind of vulnerable against the pass when the Ravens played them. And last week, we've all marred about the Kansas City Chiefs offense and their really inability to do anything like sustained. So I think it's going to be a close game. I have the Falcons in this one, but I'm not confident in that pick just because Kirk Cousins, again, who knows which one's going to show up.
I think he's more consistent than that, though. I think he's probably like 70% looks really good.
But his Joe Flacco is more mobile than him this year because he's not still 100% from that Achilles tear. And that's really hampered their offense because he's taking 4 to 5 sacks a game.
Yeah, I agree. Now let's get into our pop panel quick pick'ems, and let's take a look and see where we had differed. Now, our GM and Jessica are the only ones to pick Philly this week, but that one's pretty much a toss-up. Ask anybody.
And honestly, I'd be cool with either winning. I'd actually prefer the Commanders win that one. I like the Commanders.
Yeah, it's nice to see new blood like do well in a division. I think it has nothing to do with like who the team is, what the division is, who the quarterback is, but
Yeah.
seeing a team that's normally a basement dweller do well.
And like the people on the team, like a lot of the players have great attitudes. Like they're fun dudes. Jaden Daniels, like such a young guy, but he's he seems to be like a great leader for that. Oh.
Yeah. Quite frankly, I'd be okay if both of them didn't get off the bus and just stayed home.
Well.
Yeah, I know that's a flight of fancy. All right, get on to the next set, and surprisingly, 2 people picked the Jets. 2 people picked the Browns.
So for the Browns game, I am not convinced that Derrick Carr is anything right now in New Orleans. I think they're missing quite a few pieces. If Olave doesn't come back, I'm sticking with that pick. And as for the Jets, it's kind of again, that toss-up like the New England-Tennessee game from a couple weeks back where it's like, do I pick aging Joe Flacco, who is still playing at a very high level, or do I pick the team that has a ridiculously better roster on paper?
on that record though, or statement, you single out Derek Carr, but what about Winston? If Derek Carr is the downfall of the Saints, what about the Browns, who lost Amari Cooper and had
right? And that's the difference. Is Derek Carr, like, he started the season with guys like Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, and they put up world-beating numbers, and then everyone started getting injured. But Jameis Winston wasn't the starting quarterback. They traded away their number 1 receiver. Nick Chubb still isn't 100%. They are benching their offensive lineman for sitting out a game because he got injured. Like, he pulled himself, not the doctors, and they're benching him. That place is complete disarray. I put no onus on how the offense in Cleveland plays on Jameis.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, you have more faith in the Browns offense in this situation? I don't, obviously, but
I have more faith in the Browns defense against the New Orleans offense.
I have faith in Jameis going back to New Orleans and getting a win.
Mm-hmm. That's
Isn't
another
that the
thing
place
too.
where he threw like 1 billion interceptions, though?
That was
Kind of known for that.
30 for 30 with Jameis, 30 TDs, 30 interceptions.
In Tampa.
Oof.
Yeah, he was a backup in New Orleans.
The Jets are just
they're
hard to watch. Like it's rough. It's almost like watching, like we all love football and watching like something self-destruct that you care about. Like, even though I'm not a Jets fan, it is rough to watch.
Oh, and it's going to be even rougher because they have 30 players on expiring contracts and a 41-year-old quarterback going into next year.
Who blames everyone, and like everyone's job is at stake.
He needs to retire.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Now, move on to the next one. Only me and Derrick picked the Broncos, but we've discussed that already. And
I think
everybody picked
willing Kansas City to lose at this point.
Everybody picked Buffalo this week.
I mean, I think Buffalo is the better team. I think at this point in the season they're playing better than he has played all season. So
I think Buffalo can play better than Kansas City. However, they have their weeks where they just don't show up.
I think a big boost for them too is Matt Milano is practicing, so there's a potential for arguably their best defensive player to come back this week against Kansas City. So I think if he comes back, that defense is going to give Mahomes fits. But we all know that illegal contact was not even contact, let alone illegal. So we'll see.
Break me off a piece of that cookie. I got the Bills on that one. And of course, what?
Speaking of the Ravens game last week, there was the calls that probably should have been called. However, there was one call that I thought shouldn't have been called, but was. It was there was a couple. There was the one that it was the body weight, the roughing the passer. And the dude literally just him. He fell on him, but he tackled. He didn't go down on him after the foul control. Like, I did not get that.
It's a weird rule. It's a weird rule, but it is a rule.
So how do you not fall on someone when gravity is
supposed to fall and try to fall to the side?
or put your hands out to stop your body weight.
Yes.
It's a hard
It's
subjective
stupid.
rule that I think if there was ever going to be a challengeable penalty, it should be that, because you've got 350 plus pound men running full steam at a guy. Like, big rigs don't come with automatic brakes, man. Like, they're not going to stop on a dime.
Especially when they're laid out horizontal.
Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like that one. It is what it is, because it's roughing the passer has been a thing in recent years, but there have definitely been some this year that have not been called, like the Thursday night game with or the Sunday night game with Minnesota at the very end of the game where they just turned Darnold's helmet.
Yep.
But then there's those ones like last week where they called it and it looks fine. So
yeah.
They got to start docking the refs. And then, of course, nobody picked the Chargers to win.
To me, that's a toss-up game.
Yeah.
But
no, there's no chance Dallas is winning that one.
Yeah, I hope Dallas tanks the rest of the season. I want to see them get a top 5 pick.
Even if they do, what are they going to do? Jerry Jones is going to burn them to the ground.
If they're smart, they will not let Cooper Rush play the entirety of this game. They will give it to Trey Lance to see if he is worth the money they are paying him.
They're not paying him hardly anything.
But still, like you're carrying 3 quarterbacks on the roster. Now, with Dak Prescott's going on IR, so that's 2. But
yeah, and that, like, if he shows that he's valuable again, like, they could get something for him.
Exactly.
I don't think either quarterback is going to get them over the hump most of these games.
No, they should 100% lose out, but still, like Jess said, there are teams out there like, let's say, the Las Vegas Raiders that you may be able to parlay a 4th, 5th round pick to help shore up that offense. Maybe find you a running back because they were too cheap to pay Derrick Henry in the offseason.
Here's how bad Trey Lance is. He's the 3rd quarterback behind a guy named Cooper Rush.
With the reddest hair I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
That's totally fine. I'm just saying, you've got a guy who was a 1st-round pick who got hurt, and that's the reason why he lost his starting job, is because he got hurt and then he got traded. Trey
Lance was dog poop. That's why he got.
But it's worth kicking the tires on him to see if a quarterback-hungry team like the Raiders, like the Panthers, because I don't think Bryce Young is going to be their starter in 2 years. But I digress.
Yeah.
Let's end it. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's been fun as always. Welcome to week 12. We hope you guys have a fantastic. Is it week 12? Week 11? Whatever. Perfection's a work in progress, or whatever's on those t-shirts that are definitely not coming.
Right.
Make sure to hit the like button
for merch.
Yeah, comment down below how much money you would spend on merch so we can start tabulating how much we need to spend.
I give you $350.
$350.
That's my Domino's.
No, Loch Ness Monster. I ain't giving you no $350.
I keep coming back.
All right. Before this gets any crazier, I'm Football Jesus.
I'm the winning QB queen.
Not this week in fantasy.
I am Sam, and you have a great football week.
Bye.